Just received a beep talk, 1-877-282-BEEP, asking about the gamer business. Should a Christian man be playing a boys' game? Okay, he didn't put it like that. I'm just tainting it. And my response is, I think it's time to set those things behind and do things that are more productive. And even with downtime, relaxation time, try to find something that is more age appropriate. That's my take. I mentioned I could be wrong. It could happen. It has not happened yet in my mind, but it could happen. Therefore, if you would like to send an email to idea@wretchedradio.com and just explain why I'm wrong, I will try to engage with it and to process this as biblically as possible. So fair enough. You write an email to idea@wretchedradio.com, and then I will try to respond graciously, and then I will play some Paul Washer clips where he just slams boys in their toys. How does that sound like a deal? I won't. I'll try to... Look, if somebody has a difference of opinion on such a thing, can we not talk about something like this without calling each other heretics, getting upset with one another? Really? Seriously, if we cannot lovingly work through an issue like games and what sporting activities adults should participate in or not, without getting mad, without calling one another names, without just being incensed, and then maybe just saying, that's it, you're no longer on our radio program. Sorry, that was a different issue. Then we haven't matured very far, have we? So you send it, and I'll do my best. I will try very hard to respond as graciously as possible. idea@wretchedradio.com. And please, if you can, bring Bible verses. Okay, bring Bible verses. I bring along Paul's admonition for men to be dignified, to do things that demonstrate, wow, this is a sober-minded, an individual who carries himself as if he is a loftier call than everybody else. The comportment of the Christian man just appears to be different. I would bring that. Now, I realize it's not talking about gamers, but I still think the principle that in the Christian life, it's time to put behind childish things, to move forward to adulthood. Now, I recognize that verse falls short because that still begs the question, are gaming, the beep, 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 the big things, however they go, is that a childish thing or not? That, I suppose, is the question. And I suspect there's going to be a difference of opinion. 1-877-282-BEEP. That's the number of the old toll-free.
Should Christians date sorority or fraternity members? I'm in that situation now. I'm dating a sorority sister. Should I have freedom or not in me pursuing her for a wife?
Okay, I must be really naive on this, young man. I don't understand why you couldn't date a girl who's in a sorority. Unless it's like an anti-Christian sorority? What about a sorority might indicate that anybody who's in it is not a Christian? Guys, am I missing anything about sorority?
Reputation. I think the long-standing reputation of fraternities and sororities is places where they are very immoral.
Okay. So I guess my question would be, is that true of all sororities? Is that true of every single one?
No, not at all.
Okay. Not at all. Do we know a percentage by any chance?
I have not seen the latest studies.
I see. So
or any.
Okay, I could be wrong about this. If the stigma is that somebody's in a sorority, therefore they're a rank heathen, I'm not sure that's a correct assessment. Nevertheless, having said that, would that be a consideration because I don't want to undermine my testimony in any way, shape, or form? I have to confess, I don't think that would be one of those issues for me. I think that I'd want to be wise, though. Let's just say there is some truth that sororities, that frat houses are places, they can be places of hyper sin. I might want to be very thoughtful about that. why then did she join the sorority? Furthermore, you might want to ask, this might be getting a little bit deeper perhaps, did she have to take some sort of vow? Was it a secretive vow? That wouldn't disqualify me from wanting to date a woman that was in a sorority. It might just be an education issue that a Christian shouldn't be making secretive vows, especially if it invokes some sort of deity's name or some sort of small g god. Nevertheless, that wouldn't be a disqualifier. It would be something that I'd be interested in knowing. So I can't think of any reason why you couldn't. If you know of something, while you're sending me that email about gamers, let me know why maybe a Christian man couldn't be dating a sorority girl or a Christian woman couldn't be dating a frat boy, although that didn't sound very good like that, did it? All right.
Hey, Todd, love the show. Just curious what you think of the disputes in ancient Byzantium between the iconoclasts, people who are destroying icons, and the iconophiles, people who are venerating and making icons. Who was right?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, because my opinion, this is one, sir. Wow, has this been debated? Now, I will say this. Either side in its extreme, I think is definitely wrong. But let's start there. Now, that doesn't mean that the middle is right, but let's just start with, if you're smashing somebody's property, I don't think that's appropriate. You got a disagreement, bring it to them, explain it to them, teach them. Going into a church and ransacking it, Iconophiles. This would be more the Eastern Orthodox position. Many of the reformers, by the way, were iconoclasts, but the iconophiles would be those who, well, let's just call it what it is. It's not veneration, it's worship. They love the icons. There is prayer offered to the icons. There is some sort of adoration given to the icons. I think that's wrong, too. Now, the question is, can a church have any sort of visible symbol of something biblical? Can a Christian have some sort of symbol? A cross? I mean, to a degree, that's a physical, I wouldn't call it an icon. Maybe you could, but it's a symbol of the faith. Do we believe that we can have stained glass windows? There are some people who would say absolutely not. They would, I think, argue primarily it would be making a graven image, putting up an image that could be venerated. Well, it could be, but that could happen with anything. I could read an epistle. Oh, I love Paul. I just love Paul, and I adore Paul. I venerate Paul. You could do that with anything, whatever the delivery mechanism is. So I don't think that iconophile is appropriate either, but I don't think that just because you make an image that you have to worship it. I think stained glass windows can be magnificent communicators of truth, can they not? Now, if they are set up for somebody to kneel down, to give their affection, their attention, or certainly to offer their prayers to it, well, then I just think that that's inappropriate, but that doesn't that's a sin, actually, but that doesn't mean that the object itself is sinful. I think that it's the heart toward the object. Now, I'm just trying to think inside of Eastern Orthodoxy or inside of, say, different Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox tend to be far more into the icons and the images. Is there anything that in and of itself, would a statue of Paul be wrong? Would a carving of the Apostle Paul be a wrong thing? Or a stained glass image, it's Paul on the road to Emmaus, getting knocked down. Would that be? I don't think so. So even I certainly haven't looked at all the icons, and there's a lot of them in the Eastern Orthodox Church. I can't think of any that in and of themselves are sinful. I would have to bring it back to, I think it's a heart issue, which tends to be very much in alignment with being consistent regarding God's attitude toward our activities. They are typically heart-driven. That's what he's always interested in. Not external conformity, not just rule, but heart. In fact, speaking of that, in our church, a young man just went off to Boyce College. It's connected to Southern Seminary. And I can't recall if it was the dean or a professor. It was the address that you're all here and welcome parents. He said, we're not big into rules here. Yeah, that might be surprising to you that a Christian college, we're not about rules. Let me tell you what we're about. We're about every individual growing in their love for God so that they desire to behave appropriately as is befitting a Christian man or a Christian woman. And then others who love Jesus help those who stumble and fall along the way. In other words, they promote acting like a Christian because they are a Christian as opposed to external conformity to rules. Rather brilliant. Why do they have that? Because that's what the Christian life is about. So to iconophiles, iconoclasts, I would say either extreme is bad. Could you make some sort of an image or have some sort of an image in your church? That is between your heart and God. This is Wretched Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Wretched segment du jour. If you'd like more Wretched, you can listen to the most current stream for free at wretched.tv/listen, or you can become a club member and listen to our entire archive. Wretched, reaching the lost, equipping the saints, and strengthening the local church.